What's up guys, it's Z here, welcome back to Yugioh Deck of the Day. Today we have the signature deck of Blazing Vortex set. Finally, we're going to profile Armed Dragon. Armed Dragon is such a fun favorite deck because of the nostalgia that it has from GX. It was always an archetype, but was never really a playable one because of how old it was, but people still liked it even though it wasn't the best deck ever. So Konami knew that, and finally they printed new support. It's actually a support that is made from a pun from Chaz's sub. If you've seen the Japanese version of GX, if you would understand some puns that are here, especially in the boss monster of the deck. We'll explain that a little bit later. But I think the deck is actually going towards the right direction because they still kept them as level monsters, which I think a lot of people wanted to, because I know level monsters are not the best because they have this mechanic of having to tribute monsters to go into other ones, which is kind of slow. But I think they made it quite nicely because you can actually get some advantage by actually leveling up now. So I'm going to show you the profile I've come up with. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So to start off with the Armed Dragon Thunder monsters, we have 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 3. This is the one you want to summon first. So basically the level monsters, the lower level monsters, can tag out for the higher level one. They have to be the specific one above them. So basically you can send a monster from your hand to the grave and then send this card from the field to the grave to special summon level 5 or lower Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck. So they have synergy with the old Armed Dragon monsters too if you want to play them, but I think that's wishful thinking trying to play these because their effects were really outdated, so you can't really do much with them. So what you want to do with these is that you want to rank them up every single time, and you don't want to stop until you've reached level 10, because if you stop below, they don't really have anything going for them. But the cool thing is that they all have a secondary effect that if they're sent to the grave to activate a dragon monster's effect, they give you some sort of advantage, so you don't really neg a lot when you actually use this effect. So level 3, if it's sent to the grave to activate a dragon monster's effect, you can draw 1 card. So basically you get a free plus, so this is how you keep advantage while still negging, because you discard cards to be able to use their effects. So this is why this deck actually works, because in an old Armed Dragon deck, not only did you have to wait in order to use the level up effects, they couldn't use them right away, but you didn't get any compensation for actually tributing those monsters. So this is why these cards, even if you discard them from the hand for their effects to level up, there's also one more way you can discard them so they can get an effect. You can actually get a plus. 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 5. So Armed Dragon Thunder level 5 is the one that you can summon by using another card in the deck. You don't actually have to rank it up from level 3, because there's one card that got released in Rise of the Duelist that actually helps this deck, and I was waiting for a monster to be released that can actually use this card, and the level 5 dragon is finally here. So basically you can send a monster from your hand to the grave to send this from the field to the grave to special summon a level 7 or lower Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck, and if this card is sent to the grave to activate a dragon's effect, you can add 1 level 5 or higher winged dragon monster from your deck to your hand. So you can only see where this is going. It's not just being able to use the Armed Dragon Thunder monsters, you can actually use the Tempest, because Tempest is such a good card for multiple reasons in this deck, and because you can search it right away, you can get a free card that keeps bringing itself back every single turn. So this is why you can actually get really good advantage with this deck. 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 7, you rank this up from level 5, so same thing, you can send a monster from your hand to the grave, send this to the grave from the field, and special summon level 10 or lower Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck. It's a really good thing that it says from the hand or deck, because these cards can't be run on 3 and should be run at 3 because they do have the compensation effect when they're sent to the grave. But Armed Dragon level 10 doesn't really do much because you only want it on the field. It doesn't have an effect that replaces itself when it's sent to the grave, so this is why you can only play 1 so that you don't brick. So being able to summon from the hand in case you draw it is really good. And if this card is sent to the grave to activate a dragon's effect, you add Armed Dragon card from your deck to your hand. So you can actually use the spells and traps very consistently because of this card. So these 3 are the ones you want to be discarding. You want to be summoning them and discarding them at the same time, because if you discard anything else, then can actually be really neck. There are some other dragon cards that I play in the deck that can actually give you some sort of compensation when you discard them. So this is why this deck I think is actually really good, and the fact that they're dragons means that you can actually use a lot of good support, because we all know how good dragons are, probably the most supported type of all time. So this is why you can actually mix it with other stuff in order to be able to make an actually playable deck. 1 copy of Armed Dragon Thunder level 10. This is the boss monster. This is the card that you want to end on. If you end on anything other than this, miss from the level monsters, you don't really accomplish anything because they don't have anything to disrupt. So first of all, I want to talk about this card's effect and how it's structured, because this part that has the 1+, 10+, 100+, 1,000+, and 10,000+ may actually confuse some people, but it's actually a pun from the Japanese version of GX, because this is what the Japanese version of Chaz It Up was in the sub. So this is what Chaz was saying. So if you have any confusion on why this is here for the effect, just take a look at an episode from one of Chaz's duels in the sub, and you will realize right away why they made it like this. So this card says that if it's special summoned by the effect of an Armed Dragon monsters, it gains these effects based on its attack. So the first 4 effects, since it's a 3,000 attack, it already has all of them. There is a way to get to 10,000 attack to actually use its final effect, but I think it's very, very optimistic in order to be able to do that, because you need to play some bad card that the deck has in order to be able to rise its attack to that high. But you don't really need to do it because you mainly want it for its 4th effect. So first of all, the first effect says that its card's name becomes Armed Dragon level 10, whatever, you don't really care about that. The 10+ says that possession of this card cannot switch, which is weird, but some scenarios could come up because there are some decks that take control of monsters. So let's say you're playing against Sky Strikers sometimes, then maybe your opponent will not be able to take this with a Widow Anchor. I'm not sure exactly how that interaction works, because first you negate its effects and then you take it, so maybe they will be able to take it with Widow Anchor, but there are some other cards. So for example, your opponent cannot crack down this, so it is an effect that we haven't really had in any of boss monsters lately. So yeah, and it's a good it's something good to have. The 100+ says it can destroy a battle, again something cool. And the 4th effect is what you care about. So if it has a 1,000+ attack, so once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you send a card from your hand to the grave to target a card on the field, destroy it, and this card gains 1,000 attack. So if you use this effect like 7 times, then yes, you can actually use the 5th effect, which says that if it has 10,000+ attack, once per turn you can destroy all other cards on the field. But again, this is not going to happen like 99% of the time, but you don't really care about the effect, you care about the 4th effect. So this is why Armed Dragon Thunder level 10 is the one monster you want to end on the field. Now I play a lot of generic support cards for either dragons or something that support the Armed Dragon level 5, and being able to special summon it. So I played 2 copies of Artillery Caterpillar Turtle. This card is the Gaia support, but it says that you can tribute a monster to special summon a Gaia the Fierce Knight or 1 level 5 dragon monster from your deck. So I was considering something about this card before even Armed Dragon Thunder came out, but now we know exactly where it should be played, because being able to special summon an Armed Dragon Thunder level 5 straight from your deck means that you don't have to send another card for the Armed Dragon level 3, because sometimes you don't have enough cards to discard for 3 level ups. So this is why being able to get to your level 5 is actually really, really cool, because of this card can get it right away. I play 3 copies of Lightning, Dragon Ruler of Drafts, and Tempest, Dragon Ruler of Storms. Lightning is another way you can trigger the Armed Dragon Thunder monster's effect, so this is why I think you should play deck. Even if you have Tempest and you cannot actually use Lightning's effect, it is a dragon monster, so worst case scenario you can just normal summon it and get material for something like your Striker Dragon or LP and Pisti. So it's not even a brick when you have already had access to your Tempest, because it's a dragon monster. And that's the cool thing about dragons. They could be vanillas and they could still be actually really relevant because of how powerful the extra deck monsters are. So this is why I think a dragon deck can actually thrive no matter what you put in it, and if they have at least decent effects from their own archetype, by putting the generic support from the dragons, you can actually make a really powerful deck. Obviously I do play rockets in the deck. I play 2 copies of Rocket Tracer, 1 copy of Silver Rocket, and 1 copy of Rocket Recharger. If you're playing dragons and you want to make the most out of your deck, you should be playing rockets, because come on, rockets are the ones that give you more disruption, they give you extenders, they have really good support. And there's also one card that synergizes with rockets that I think actually makes Armed Dragon Thunder much, much better, because it's another card that replaces itself when it's into the grave. And this card are the 3 copies of Absor Outer Dragon. So if you control a rocket, you special summon this from their hand, that's fine. But if this card's sent to the grave, you add a rocket from your deck to your hand. So this is another card you can discard for the effects of your Armed Dragon Thunder monsters, so you can actually get something when you level up your monsters. So this is another extender, and it's also replaced itself. 2 copies of Noctavision Dragon. This is another extender. If you control a dark monster, a dark dragon, you special summon from the hand. And unfortunately, in order to draw a card with this, you have to use it as link material. So if you discard it, you will not get to draw. It also has a weird effect that protects your face down cards from targeting when it's in the grave. But let's be honest, you're playing a combo deck, so it's not like you will ever have anything set on the field. So don't even pay attention to this effect. The other 2 effects are what's important. So So you play a lot of extenders, you play a lot of starters, so the deck actually has a lot of consistency and a lot of power. And one copy of Red as Darkness Metal Dragon, because in any dragon deck you should be playing this. Unfortunately, it's still at 1, and I'm not sure if Konami plans on bringing this back to 3, to be honest, even though it got its errata. But still, it's a monster so powerful that you need to be able to play, especially since you can special summon right away maybe an Armed Dragon Thunder level 7 from your hand, so you actually can skip 2 discard steps with this. For the spells, play 3 copies of Armed Dragon Flash. This is a new quick launch, so we have 6 copies of quick launch in dragon decks right now. So even if you're not playing Armed Dragon, if you want to get more extenders in a dragon deck, then you can just play 3 copies of Armed Dragon Flash and 1 or 2 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 3, because this special summons a level 3 Armed Dragon monster from your deck in defense. This one is once per turn, unlike quick launch, which is a good thing, because if it wasn't, then you could have so many extenders, and yeah, that would be bad. But yep, you have more extenders for the deck. You can special summon the OG Armed Dragon level 3 too, but you should never play that. Just the Armed Dragon Thunder monsters are good enough. 2 copies of Armed Dragon Lightning. This is a continuous spell that actually is worth playing. I was reading through the spells and traps of the deck, and I didn't think that they were really good, but these 2 are actually good. So this card says if an Armed Dragon monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, you can send this to the grave instead. So level 10 protects itself from battle, but was bad because it was already a 3k beater at least, so it's not like your opponent is going to be able to be destroyed by battle like too often, but this actually protects from effects, which is good. And it also has some other effects that you can target an Armed Dragon monster you control. You activate one of these effects, it can gain either attack based on its level, 100 times its level, which is another way you can boost your Armed Dragon Thunder level 10, or the effect that you're going to use most of the time is add an Armed Dragon monster from your grave to your hand with a level less than or equal to that monster. Because not only do you need to discard to level up your Armed Dragon Thunder monsters, but you also need to discard to activate Armed Dragon Thunder level 10's disruption effect. So there are some scenarios that you don't have enough cards in your hand because you can only draw so many dragons, and if your hand has a lot of spells, then sometimes you will not be able to use these effects. So this is another way to add back a monster to be able to discard for the level 10's effect, and if you add it if you discard one of the Armed Dragon Thunder that are lower than level 10 for level 10's effect, you will also get their other effect, so you can actually get some advantage while disrupting your opponent. 3 copies of Quick Launch. Of course, if you're playing Rockets, I don't see a reason not to play 3 copies of Quick Launch. It's not once per turn. No matter how many you draw, you will activate them all, and this is why I play 4 Rockets that I can summon, because if you play only 1 and 1, like 1 Tracer and 1 Silver Rocket, then yes, you can use the combo once, but then the more top decks you get, if you draw Quick Launch, then it's going to be completely dead because you don't have a way to get them back to the deck. So this is why I think playing more copies, even though sometimes you don't really want to see them, is actually worth. And you don't really mind seeing them because you play Striker Dragon and this can search your field spell, and the field spell can get them out of your hand anyway without even using your normal summon. So this is why I like playing multiple copies of Rocket. 3 copies of World Legacy Guard Dragon. You need as much revival as possible in the deck, because just relying on Armed Dragon level 10 is not enough to win, obviously. But since you're playing dragons, you can use stuff like LP and Pisty and end on Heavenly Spheres, which is an insane disruption, especially if you're playing it in a pure dragon deck, because not only is it a disruption, but it also gives you another monster from the deck. So if you can get an Armed Dragon level 7 with Heavenly Spheres, you can get even more pluses because you will get Armed Dragon level 10. So even if you cannot use the Armed Dragon full level up combo during the first turn, you don't really care, because you can actually use other stuff to disrupt them with Heavenly Spheres and Savage Dragon with the Rockets. So you can actually wait in order to use the actual engine. You don't have to hard commit to an Armed Dragon level 10 and discard all of your resources and not end on anything other than the Armed Dragon level 10, because this is how you're going to lose games. So you need to be able to be conservative with the deck and see exactly when you should use the Armed Dragon's effect and when you should not. 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus, because this banishes Tempest and this searches your entire archetype, because they're all wind dragons. So you can get either the starter if you don't already have it, or you can get a monster that can actually act as discard, so you can actually get more cards. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, even more revival, of course, and this can bring back any monster, not just level 4 lower dragons. So you can either bring back some from your opponent's grave, or you can bring back Red as Darkness Metal, which is usually what you do during the late game to get even more monsters on the field. And 1 copy of Boot Sector Launch, because you do play Rockets, so Striker Dragon gives you even more value by being able to search this, so they don't break your hand, because if you don't have this, then you will not be able to get them out of your hand unless you commit a normal summon. But most of the time, you're normal summoning either your Artillery Catapult Turtle or your Armed Dragon Thunder level 3 if you don't have the Armed Dragon Flash. For the extra deck, play 1 copy of Striker Dragon, of course, pretty standard. It acts as something not only to get to your field spell, but it also puts a dragon in the grave, so you can actually bring it back with Monster Reborn or World Legacy Guard Dragon. So worst case scenario, if you have just a level 4 lower dragon and a revival spell and your hand is full of bricks, you can still end on a Heavenly Spheres, which can sometimes actually be enough to disrupt your opponent and give you a follow-up play. 1 LP and Pisty. These cards are still in the format, as LP did not get hit, so yep, we're still going to use it. And these cards could not be more powerful for any dragon deck, because they give you access to pretty much much whatever you need. 2 copies of Heavenly Spheres. I like 2 in this deck because I think you are going to grind a lot more than you think, because yes, it's supposed to be a bit down deck, but in testing I didn't think like I was able to OTK my opponent like too consistently unless they didn't open very optimally or unless they were playing an underwhelming deck. But if you plan on taking this on a deck, on an event that can actually have some good viable decks, then I think you're going to get into grind games, so this is why I think you should play 2 Heavenly Spheres just in case. 1 copy of Crossroads Dragon and 1 copy of Protector Whelp the Distraction Swordsman. So these 2 are generic dragons. Do not even care to read about the effects. You don't care about that. You only care about their arrows, because they're dragon monsters you can summon under the Guard Dragon restrictions that have different arrows depending on what you need to be able to go into plays. So Crossroads Dragon points downwards, and Distraction Whelp actually gives you the diagonal arrows. So this is why you need to play both of them, because there are some scenarios where your LP or your Pisty, maybe they're in a certain zone from they survived the previous turn or something, so you need to be able to use them again. So these 2 are here in order to be able to give you the correct zone depending on how the field looks like. 1 copy of Masquerena. Masquerena is a good card you can end on. Sometimes I prefer summoning this over Heavenly Spheres, but if you cannot, because sometimes LP and Pisty on the field, so you have to go into Heavenly Spheres, but if you can, Masquerena is a really great card because of another card that got released in Blazing Vortex. I did mention it in a previous video, but I'm going to mention it again. Masquerena is going to be such a generic card right now, because if you thought it was generic before to be able to summon something like a Unicorn or Appaloosa during your opponent's turn, right now we have a monster that's like much better than both of them combined. I'm going to show you a little later. For the Nightmares, play 1 Phoenix and 1 Unicorn. I think the deck needs some utility and it doesn't have it in the main deck, so you need to rely on stuff like Unicorn and Phoenix in order to be able to destroy certain cards, especially back row, because this deck actually can struggle against back row decks, and since Eldritch is such a popular deck right now, you need to be able to at least have the option of being able to destroy back row. 1 copy of Appaloosa. You can actually spam a lot in the deck, so it's not very rare that you can summon this. 1 copy of Borrelsword, even more often that you can summon Borrelsword because it's a dragon, so you can summon it even under LP and Pisty, and this is usually how you OTK. You end on a Borrelsword and Armed Dragon level 10 on the field, so that's the most amount of damage you can do. 1 copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. This is the reason Masquerena is going to be such a good card. Blazing Vortex gave us a lot of archetypes, it gave us a lot of support for all their archetypes, and it gave us a lot of generic cards, so I think the set is actually underrated. It actually has a lot of good cards in the deck, considering there is a pot in the deck, there's a pot in the set, there is a new hand trap, which people are going to experiment with, and of course there's this card which makes Masquerena an absolute beast, because you can actually use one of your opponent's monsters to link summon this. So when you summon Masquerena and you use her as disruption, you're also taking one of your opponent's monsters in the process, while also getting a monster that is unaffected by anything that doesn't target. So the mentality we had prior to this, that targeting was bad, is actually going to swap around right now and think that targeting is better than non-targeting because of this card's existence, because otherwise you will not be able to get rid of it. But also Dark Rulers no more your opponent's field when it's summoned, and also has an effect that just negates the special summons from the graves. So yep, this card is actually really good. It's much better than using Masquerena for either a Unicorn or Appaloosa, because it has so much utility to it. And for the Synchro monsters, I play 1 copy of Borderlord Savage Dragon, of course playing Rockets, but I'm also playing 1 copy of Draco Berserker of the Tenny for multiple reasons. First of all, you need to have something else in order to be able to use Trace's effect twice. You can play a second Savage if you want, but I think playing 1 each is actually much better, because Draco Berserker is a much better card when you're going second because of its effect to attack twice while also boosting itself. And there are some scenarios where having Draco Berserker on the field can actually be a better disruption than Savage, because sometimes Savage cannot actually equip higher than a Link 1, because you have Striker Dragon in the grave, and if your combo got interrupted somehow, you cannot get it into another Link, and getting 1 negate with Savage is actually underwhelming. But being able to summon Berserker, which can use its effect to banish an effect that activates during either player's turn, and no matter how many times it wants, because it doesn't rely on counters, can actually be much better than just having a 1 negate Savage. So yep, that's the deck, guys. It's a really cool deck. I really enjoyed the Armed Dragons back in the anime, and I'm so happy that they got support. And I think the deck is actually in the right direction of making a level deck actually playable, and having the feeling that you're playing a level deck, even though you're playing in 2021. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.